Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be checking out my November 2021 forecast. It includes my forecast, which has precipitation, temperature, the overall forecast. We're also going to check out a couple other things, as well like the current sea surface temperatures, some analog data, and also some of the model guidance and the Climate Prediction Center's outlook here as well. So we're going to get started with the sea surface temperature anomalies. And the last time you guys seen this was back on my secondary winter forecast. And some things have changed. And the biggest change is this area in here, which I've talked about during my winter forecast, this negative PDO. And unfortunately, it's got a little bit worse. Now, temperatures have been closer to neutral here. It hasn't changed that much here over the last 7 days here. It's been kind of neutral. But if you get further south here, closer to Washington and Oregon, it has significantly got cooler. That's because we had that bomb cyclone there about a week or two ago. And it was the strongest low pressure system ever recorded in that part of the ocean, which the pressure was down to as low as 940 millibars. And that's certainly cool things down there. And we'll see how this kind of progresses here, but this is certainly going to be a big factor here into November here. We also got this La Nina going on here as well, which typically for our La Nina over the last several years, it has been very, very warm for the United States here. That's pretty typical for our La Nina for the fall. It's been very warm over the last several years here. Um, there's not a whole lot else to talk about here other than the coastlines here are starting to cool down a little bit as well. They'll certainly cool down a little bit more as we kind of get into November. Very interesting forecast for the southeast, though, for the month of November, especially early on as well. There's not a whole lot of other things to talk about here other than this big blob here of above normal temperatures. That could certainly influence the NAO. And if it does turn negative, that'll be some better news for the eastern United States. That could give a better opportunity for some more colder shots as well. That's where we had that ridging across a lot of these areas here for the most of October. If you guys remember October, we had well above normal temperatures there, and my forecast did pretty well on that as well. If you guys want to check out the October forecast, see how well I did, I'll put the card there on the top right corner of your screen. But anyways, here with that big ridge that was up there, it certainly warmed things up, which is honestly a good sign there for the Eastern United States for the upcoming winter as well. And I think we'll finally start to see something a little different happen towards late November as well. So this is from Justin Weather on Twitter here. This is a good note here. And this is over the last several years here, since 2011, with the Novembers that had La Nina. And you can see here, it's been very warm. And 2020 is on there too, by the way. Last year's technically an analog carry. It was a La Nina. From what I can remember, not much happened in November. I think a lot of us were pretty warm. Things finally turned a little bit more active when you get to late November. This is when we had our first snowflakes of the season, probably on the last day of November here in Kentucky into December 1st. I certainly remember that. We had that little winter storm for the Ohio Valley. But yeah, November is typically very warm here. At least that's what it's been over the last several years. For the month of November, it's been very warm across most of the United States. Really, the only area that's been on the cooler side is the west coastline, parts of California, and up into parts of Oregon and Washington as well. So certainly very interesting. Let's check out the CFS model here. We'll check out some model guidance here, and that ridge just continues to build up in Canada. That's keeping areas well above normal. Now, I don't think it won't be as warm as October across parts of the north. I think things will be a little bit on the cooler side. There's a couple things I want to note here. Plus, you got this negative PDO going on here, just to the south of Alaska. That's where a lot of cold air is kind of going to be locked up there for November. There's also another area that could be locked up with some cold air, and that's the southeast. You definitely notice here with these height anomalies, it kind of cools down for the southeastern United States as well. I think the southeast will certainly get a break from the warmth here and may stay cool for at least most of the month of November, which would be very interesting as well. But then again, two note biggest things here is this big ridge across parts of most of Canada, and you also got this big trough here, which will certainly lead to more active weather across parts of the Northwest as well. It also gives me a notice here that the high pressure system, probably on average, will probably in this region in here. And if that's the case there, I think most of the eastern United States won't see much in the way of activity, which you'll definitely notice here when we get to precipitation, which you can see here, very similar to what I'm talking about here. Active across the Northwest, above normal precipitation seems pretty likely. But look across the east here, especially the Great Lakes region, dry. And I think that's pretty accurate in my opinion here. If your average high pressure placement is going to be somewhere in the Mississippi River Valley, a lot of that dry air is just going to keep on coming into from the north. And that's going to keep all this moisture here pretty suppressed, more focused across parts of the southeast. And I think it may be at times more suppressed, it may be off the coast as well, more out to parts of the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico here. Maybe a little too wet across some of these areas in here. I think it may be closer to average across some of these areas as well. If you look for 2 meter temperature anomalies, check this out. Very warm across parts of the north here. Maybe a little too warm for the west there, but you do notice here, look across the southeast. Cooler than average temperatures there. So that's definitely very interesting here. With these cooler than average temperatures here and some of that troughing and stuck there, this ridge here is probably going to likely stay up here for a while here until something big happens, possibly into late November, which we'll see about that later down the road there. But certainly looking pretty warm across parts of the northern plains as well. But then again, there is some signal that there may be a pattern change coming to late November. So we'll see what happens there. But I will certainly say here, especially into mid-November, it's likely to be a pretty warm period across parts of the north there as well. Let's check out the Kansas model. This is on its latest run here. Pretty similar output here, but honestly, I feel like this is a little bit more accurate here to my thoughts here, especially with that potential pattern change to late November. That's going to keep these above average temperatures a little bit on the lower end of the scale. But I do believe most of your above average temperatures will be more focused across parts of the four corner states there. But you also do notice here, look across parts of the southeast and the mid-Atlantic, slightly below average with temperatures. Along the west coastline, slightly above normal, but honestly, I do think it's going to be closer to average. In my opinion, maybe closer to slightly below average for the parts of the far northwestern parts of the United States. But we'll see about that. But Kansas model seems decently accurate here. Very similar thoughts to what I have. Even for precipitation, though, it gets even better. I think this is very accurate here, especially with that high pressure kind of place there. All of this dry air coming from Canada just continues to fill in. That's going to keep all that moisture suppressed off the coast of from the Atlantic and also the Gulf of Mexico, and also has that area of weather to normal conditions across parts of the Northwest as well. And most of the Rockies here are closer average here. I don't think there won't be too much of a wave activity though across parts of the desert Southwest, parts of Southern California, most of Arizona, New Mexico, maybe into parts of western Texas. Also has some doubts on some activity, so it may be closer to slightly below average with precipitation here. If we check out these 500 millibar height anomalies, very interesting up there near the Arctic Circle there, um, with some more troughing activity up there, which is kind of interesting there. Honestly, I think there's going to be more ridging up there to troughing, in my opinion. But it's also very similar to the CFS model, though. You got troughing with that negative PDO. There's even a troughing across most of the eastern United States, and then you got this ridge here across parts of the central, and even for parts of western United States, and that expands up to parts of Canada as well. So pretty interesting output out there as well, and honestly, I would agree here, maybe exception for that colder than normal temperatures or the more trophic activity around the Arctic Circle. So I had a quick drink real quick. Um, Now here's the cloud predictor's forecast, and honestly, I have some disagreements with this forecast here. Um, Temperature wise, honestly, most of it I do agree with. Honestly, I do believe here it does have the similar thoughts to what I have here. I feel like there's going to be a very warm period here, but I feel like those above normal temperatures are really good to overcome those slight below average temperatures um, later into November. So it'll be interesting to see there. But I think most of these areas here were probably on the warmer side of things. But I do agree with the greatest concentration area of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas there. I do agree with that. I think it will be a little bit on the warmer side for parts of the far northeastern United States, parts of the northeastern United States, maybe a little aggressive with that. But surprisingly enough, they do not have any areas that slide below average. Well, honestly, I would put an area for parts of the southeast there as well. Uh, Precipitation wise, I do agree with the Northwest being above normal. Honestly, I have disagreements for the Eastern United States though, especially this area in here. I feel like it's going to be the opposite. I think things will be drier across parts of the Great Lakes region. They may be doing that maybe because of lake effect snow action, but I don't think the temperatures will be really cold enough. Now, early on, yes, it will be cold enough, but where things will be warming up and winds kind of coming from the southwest. I don't think it's could be good for lake effect snow. So, but we'll see how the Great Lakes go. I think you guys could see some lake effect snow earlier into the month of November, but I think things will dry out again when we get to mid-November. And we'll see what happens to late November as well. But I think most of the United States will be drier, exception for parts kind of along the east coast line. We may be able to see some coastal lows as well. It's a pretty favorable setup here where you got some troughing across parts of the southeast. Some coastal lows could develop and go right up along the east coastline as well. So kind of 50-50 for me with their forecast there, but it's not terrible or anything like that. All right, let's check out my forecast here, my thoughts here, and you can see here, similar with the above average placement here to the Climate Prediction Center here, more focused on the four corner states. I do have to agree with that. That's also where I have the greatest confidence here for above average temperatures as well. Confidence does decrease a little bit when you get a little further up to the north as well, more focus across parts of the Great Lakes, Northern Plains, and also the upper Midwest as well. There is two areas that slide below average temperatures. You got one for parts of Washington and far northwestern Oregon, and then you got another one for parts of the southeastern United States as well. There's also this other area slightly above average temperatures as well. Then again, with that NAO type situation here, and also with those very warm sea surface temperatures, I think things will stay a little bit on the warmer side up there as well. But I don't think it would be terribly warm or anything like that. Most of the Northeast, though, should stay closer to average as well. But then again, with some of these troughs here across the Southeast here, some lows may try to develop on the eastern side of that trough and maybe try to ride up along the coastline here. Could bring some shower activity, maybe some slightly windier conditions as well. But I don't think we won't see too many of those, though, um, for November. Then we look into precipitation here, and you do see here it's going to be dry for a lot of us here, especially in the eastern United States here. Then again, like I said here, some coastal low activity going on the east coast here. I think precipitation would be closer to average there. But when you get further inland, likely going to be slightly below average there, especially with that the ridge of high pressure going to be in place here. All you're getting here is just dry air from the northwest or from the north. So that's going to keep a lot of that moisture suppressed further to the south. However, if it is cold enough for the Great Lakes, you could see some shower and snow shower activity up there as well. It's certainly possible. If we do see more of that type of action for November, I think precipitation will be closer to average as well. It'll be a little bit of a difficult forecast for them as well. For right now, I'm putting you guys for slight below average, but you guys could certainly see some lake effect snow action. Excuse me. Um, There's another area saw large precipitation across parts of the desert southwest into parts of western Texas as well. I don't think there's going to be much a way of lows. I think a very common track, though, for November is these lows here, moving on shore here to parts of the northwest here, and just kind of move up north here. So not many of these lows are going to make it to the eastern United States here because of that block of ridge, the ridge of high pressure here. You got a big ridge up to the north here as well. So some of these big lows will turn up north towards Canada fairly quickly as well. This is also not a bad setup for some severe weather. If there's going to be any severe weather, if there's going to be a certain area that's going to see more severe weather than anybody else, it'll probably be across parts of the central and southern plains. So that'll be an area I will watch for the potential for some severe weather. It will not be as active as October though. October was certainly a pretty active month for severe weather. It turned out to be one of the most active months for severe weather for October. It was second place here for the most tornadoes on record during the month of October. So it was certainly pretty active as well. So that may surprise some of you folks out there as well as like, yeah, October is probably a little bit more active than what you thought. Um, then we look to the northwest, parts of Oregon and Washington above average with precipitation. So when you get a little further inland, even to parts of northern California, slightly above average precipitation. That's certainly going to be a pretty active pattern, another active month for you guys as well. That's really about it for the precipitation. Then let's talk about the overall forecast as well. So we'll go from west to east. So especially for the higher elevations of the Rockies here in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Washington, Oregon, in the Sierra Mountains into parts of California, we could certainly see some active mountain snow up there as well. Could certainly see a lot of snow up there, at least for the month of November as well. It should certainly be cold enough for some snow up there as well. Meanwhile, in the lower elevations, it'll be stormy down there as well. Periods of heavy rain for some places, especially along the coastline as well. So it's going to be wet down there. Cold shots for parts of Wyoming and Montana, where some of these cold fronts kind of move by here. And then things kind of briefly warm up a little bit, and then you get another cold shot. So you guys over there can certainly see some cold shots. Then areas in the gray here, which includes parts of Central California, Southern Nevada, a good chunk of Utah, northwestern Colorado, southern Wyoming, even for southeastern Idaho. I'll say it's going to be closer to average here. I couldn't think of anything else other than putting an average for you guys. So average precipitation, average temperatures, pretty much about average everything for you guys. So just your typical November for those areas. Then you got the desert southwest to parts of western Texas, mild and dry. I'll say it will certainly be mild and also be dry as well, kind of self-explanatory there. Then we got this big yellow area, flip-flop. Early, especially for early November, especially across parts of a lot of these areas down here. It'll be colder for the start, but when we get to mid-November, that's when things will warm up, and then possibly get into late November, parts in the north here will turn to the colder side as well. Not sure about areas a little further south, could be a little bit on the warmer side. There's some uncertainty with the late November pattern as well, but generally it's gonna be flip flop for a lot of these folks here. So it'd be cold early, warm mid, then cold late for at least for parts of the central or the northern parts of this region as well. So that's what it means here with that flip flop. Then we move to the southeast. Chilly in general here, especially early on. I know here in parts of Kentucky, temperatures highs will be in the 40s, so it will certainly be chilly. And I'm sure areas a little further to the south, I'm sure you guys will see some chilly temperatures, especially for the lows as well. A lot of areas will probably be in the 40s for the lows. And those higher elevations as well, especially early on, we could see some mountain snow, especially in the higher elevations of West Virginia, possibly the higher elevations in western North Carolina. We'll see about that. But either way, it's certainly going to be chilly across for a lot of us here in the southeast, even into parts of the mid-Atlantic. That's what could see some chilly temperatures here as well. That could go on throughout most of November, so there could be a warm period sometime later in the month, but we'll see about that. Then for parts of the Ohio Valley and into the interior northeast, generally going to be dry. Temperatures will be closer to average, but overall it's generally going to be dry here. There's not going to be much away precipitation here. It'll be some good news for farmers though. I know farmers here locally still have harvesting to do. It's been a very wet October, so hopefully these dry periods here can certainly help get some farmers get done with their harvesting, especially across parts of the Ohio Valley and also for the Midwest as well. And then we got our last area here, basically from eastern North Carolina up into kind of going along the coastline up into Maine. Coastal lows. Now, we're not really talking about much in the way of major coastal lows like we had with that big nor'easter, that bomb cyclone we had. I don't think we won't really see many of those for November, but I could certainly see some weaker lows here, kind of going along the coastline here. That could bring in some rounds of showers. Could get a little windy as well, so that's what it kind of means there. So I do believe we can see some coastal lows go across these regions here for November as well. But anyways, guys, this is all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you do like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put in the comment section down below. I want you guys questions. And I see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.